What happens when you hit rock bottom, when you've got no further left to go, when you've bottomed out, when you're at the depths? Well, I spoke to Fearne Cotton on my podcast, Under the Skin, available on Luminary, about how she has felt at times in her life when she's reached that state. Me, I've got experience with rock bottoms around money and fame and drugs and all sorts of addictions. But I know that a lot of you are suffering. I know a lot of you are in that state right now and you feel alone and desperate and unable to get out of that state. Hit me up in the comments below. Tell me how you're feeling. I read your comments and I know that many of you are in various degrees of suffering, various states of distress. And one of the things I believe that can help us is, of course, community, of course, prayer and meditation. Of course, there has to be practical action. In this conversation with Fearne, we talk about her experience of being at rock bottom. Stay to the end. She's got some fantastic stuff to say. She's been on an incredible journey and she's an incredible person.
Elsewhere in the book, you look at prayer, ritual, all of the kind of areas of spiritual life that or some of the areas of spiritual life that are worthy of exploration, and you put some good building blocks in place for people. You once said to me that that you had realized that spirituality is not like a side dish, it's the main meal. That's the sort of has to become the kind of focus of life. No, I was struck by that, and I've always remembered it. It's probably 2 or 3 years, so maybe in another 3 years I'll see if I still remember it, Fearne, or perhaps by then more profound things would have been said by you that I'm contemplating. But it's weird, isn't it? Because you think we live in a pretty individualistic, self-centered culture, and even some of the challenge I think when we're in this particular area, spirituality, is how not to get too not make it another thing that we're obsessed with about ourselves. And I ain't even going to take responsibility for this. I'm self-obsessed, right? But I feel well, I've been bred to be self-obsessed. I've been like a person like you. I've been famous now for a bunch of years. You're told that you're super important, and even before that, even you forget the bloody celebrity. All of us are this is your phone, this is your individual life, this is your individual profile, this is your avatar, this is what you got to do. Every one of us is publishing our own little pages all over these various new emergent formats. And when we say something like spirituality is the center of our life, is pivotal, is formative and foundational, we're saying that there's got to be sort of a home in us, that there's a place that we return to. I think we're saying that, someone said to me yesterday, man, it's been I think this is deep stuff. Like he said, the price of wisdom and integrity is despair. And he unpacked that for me a little bit by saying that, the despair is you recognize there's a lot you're going to let go of. You're going to let go of beauty. You're going to let go of sleeping around. You're going to let go of the fact that your children ain't going to live forever, that that your pets are dying. The despair has to be, you're going to get walloped with it, for a full frontal wallop of despair. Now, how do you feel about the kind of pain and sort of ugliness that's stitched into the spiritual life, and how do you combat the kind of cultural tendencies to individualize all of this stuff?
I think, first of all, spirituality isn't something that you do, and I don't even think it's the central focus of life. I think it is life. I don't think you can do it. We're alive, and life is spirituality. And as soon as we start thinking of it otherwise, that's when it becomes some sort of individual pursuit, or who's better at spirituality, or who's wiser, or who's studied it more. We're doing it all day, every day, perhaps on different levels of awareness, but we're doing it. And I think, when I first spoke to you about this, I was going through some, I guess, slightly frustrating times, because I was still I had one toe in the door of TV still, and I have 0 toes in the door now.
No toes? You've took out every toe?
I've literally chopped off all my toes. And I was sort of, approaching different production companies and talking to TV channels about doing a TV show on spirituality, which is essentially on life. And the feedback was always that it was a bit niche. And I thought, how can it be niche? It's not the side dish. It is the whole point. Otherwise, what are we doing? We're just sort of mechanically moving through life, doing what we're told and trying to stay in line and trying to be a decent person. But what about all the other stuff? I heard you talking to Jimmy Carr about that sort of sentiment. Like, are you just going to walk through life being a decent person, but without perhaps looking for like the meaning in it? And also, as soon as you start wanting to live just as a decent human and be benevolent and do good deeds, when you're not, that's where you then obviously slip into self-loathing and a negative spiral of thought. So it's, you know, I kind of had no option. Luckily, I was brought up by a mum who's very sort of broad-minded and was really into spirituality. On the level that we would go into a shop called Dreamcatcher on Pinner High Street where they sold bits of quartz and you could have Reiki. So we were, I was aware of all this stuff. I didn't necessarily get it on a deep level, but I knew that it kept mum feeling really happy, and she liked some seriously out there stuff to sort of stop her from looking over into the abyss too much. And then going from being in my 20s and doing a job that was really exciting, never feeling quite comfortable in it, but sort of going with it anyway, I sort of got cracked in two. And I think when you go through something really shitty, and I'm never too specific about anything, but I had a big period of depression and then subsequently anxiety, which I still deal with the anxiety bit, not necessarily the depression bit so much. But I think when you either hit rock bottom or you go through something very, very challenging and you're broken in two, the first thing that happens is the illusion breaks. So all the obvious things that were had that sort of illusion aspect to them, like the job that I was in, all of a sudden didn't make sense. Like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
What is all this? Why does this job often make me feel so terrible about myself? And then obviously on a deeper level, the illusion of you breaks to an extent. Every bit of your identity that you've created through the things that you do, the people what you've achieved and haven't achieved, sort of becomes meaningless. So I had no other option than to dive into spirituality, or you could just call it life a little more rather than living on the surface of it and just sort of getting through it. I wanted to first of all, I wanted to seek meaning in the shit that I've been through that I didn't want to be experiencing, and the ways that you might do so is to look into this world of spirituality and the different practices that come from all different parts of the globe, all different cultures that have been going for eons, have really helped people find meaning, therefore probably find their purpose because of that. And also overarching all of that is looking for connection, and connection obviously spans connection to others, connections to nature and the planet, and a big one, a connection to yourself. And we're subconsciously disconnected from so much in the modern world, and we sort of know it, and we sort of feel a bit sick about it, and we don't really often know what to do about it. On a really practical basic level, you want to go and buy some strawberries. They've probably been flown from another country. They arrive in a plastic punnet. You, on a sort of deep level, feel really uncomfortable about the whole situation, but you just want to eat strawberries. There's bits that are wrong with the systems we live in, and it's disconnected us on every level. So I think our only chance to secure a better connection with ourselves, the planet, and others is to go down this route.
Did you like the bit where I goes, the price of wisdom is despair? I learned that from a very, very wise druid person that I hang with and chat with sometimes. That to know wisdom, you have to understand and accept despair. The despair of other people's deaths, the despair of your own death, the crisis that comes with knowing that the material world can never fulfill you. Let me know what you think of this conversation in the comments below. If you liked it enough, maybe you'll sign up to Luminary, while you got my podcast Under the Skin, and also my other podcast Above the Noise, which is a guided meditation. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this conversation. Give it a like, give it a subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one or this one. Sign up to my mailing list, and remember, I am live all over the country. You can come see me in Bristol, Glasgow, Plymouth, Newcastle, Stockton-on-Tees. I'm all over the country. There's a link in the description that will tell you where I'm appearing. Stay free.